Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to our summer writing prep series. Okay, so I am doing a series of 9 videos over the next 3 weeks or so, all designed to help you get your summer writing in order. So today's video is called The Relationship Between Rest and Writing and what it means for your summer writing. Now, this is something that I write about in my book called Making Time to Write. And this is a concept that I learned from my coach and she learned from her coach. So I am passing it on down through to you. Okay, so a lot of people, as we talked about in the last video, they have this idea or they're operating on a binge and bust cycle with their academic writing. And what that means is that they are saving up all of their writing, trying to get it done over the summer, binging on it. And then, of course, what happens is it leads to a bust, which means that you're stressed out, you break down, you're too tired. Maybe you're even too tired to get to the binge. And this happens to people over the summer, too. Also, sometimes we can start to feel resentful, right? It can start to be like, well, wait a minute, this is my summer and maybe my family's off, or, it's a time where people are traveling. And you're working, right? You're trying to desperately get all the writing, the backlog of writing that's accumulated. You're desperately trying to get that out the door. And look, I get it. That is something that is kind of par for the course in academia. It is a way that we cope with the extra stress and pressures that we feel of having an overloaded schedule as professors during the semesters or during the terms, right? Depending on, it could be semesters, quarters, trimesters. So today I want to talk about another deeper layer of how we break that binge and bust cycle. And that is by understanding the role of rest in writing. So I have a little diagram. Of course, it's going to come out on YouTube with the words are spelled backwards. But this says create and this says restore. And the important thing here is this diagram, which is representing the relationship between what I call it creation and restoration. It's the create, restore cycle. So let me cite some sources here. This idea comes from the Martha Beck School of Coaching. And Martha Beck talks about it as creation integration, which is another great way to kind of think about any kind of learning or any kind of creative act that we do. And I got that through the Martha Beck certified master coach, Natalie Miller, who is my coach. So Natalie taught me this concept at a retreat. And I don't know why I remembered it as create, restore instead of create, integrate. But I did. And I'm just going with it because I think for you all, for my audience, for professors, that this really makes a lot of sense. I mean, integrate does as well, but let me kind of just jump on and go all in with the create, restore cycle. Again, I talk about this in my book, which is called Making Time to Write. You can find it on Amazon or in any bookstore. But today you're going to get this piece of it right here on YouTube. Okay, so the relationship between creation and restoration. So first, let me make an argument for why you as an academic writer are creating. Okay. So you might think of people who create as artists who paint things or poets who write poems or they're creating some kind of work of art. Well, you, my friend, as a professor are also a creator, right? You are a creator of things. You create curriculum, you create lesson plans, you create lectures, you create knowledge, right? You make knowledge. That's what your research does. And of course, writing is also a creative act. Now, it's not creative in the sense that you're just making it up, right? It's not like writing fiction, but you are creating something that did not exist before when you are writing even the most scientific, jargony, filled with diagrams, scientific article, right? That is an act of creation. And so this rule applies. And the rule is that there is a relationship between creation and restoration. And what we think is that if we want to create more, so translate that into if we want to write and publish more, we think what we have to do is spend more time creating. Okay, so that looks like this. And this is how we have structured our whole society, right? Like this, where we create and have this little tiny time to rest and restore and integrate. All right, so think of the 7-day work week, right? We have the 5 days, Monday through Friday, and this little tiny bit of time over here. The work day, right? Especially for professors, we are working 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And then we have a little tiny bit of time to rest before we sleep, like to unwind, to integrate, to still be awake, but restoring ourselves before we sleep. And same thing here with like the academic year, right? So August through May or September through May, and then a little bit of time in the summer. And what you all are doing is taking away from this little bit of time in the summer, the breaks between all of this massive creation when you are teaching your classes and when you are collecting your data and when you are writing grants and we are doing all of this, presenting and creating and creating. And then you also want to pull even more time out of your very tiny bit of time that you have for restoring yourself. And this is the way that like basically everything works, right? Like I said, the weekday, the 40-hour work week, which really is a 60-hour work week for most professors or more, this is the way it works. Lots of creation, tiny bit of restoration. And then because of this, we think that if we make this bigger, that's how we're going to increase the amount of production, right? This is how, like, create more time over here, more creation, more creation, more creation, and ignoring this little bit over here. But that's not how it works. It works like this. So what happens? If you want to increase your creation, you have to increase your restoration as well. So that you get, right, the more you create, the more you restore, the more you build your capacity to create, the more you build your capacity to restore. These things work like this. It doesn't work like with the little bit on the end over here. You cannot increase the amount of things you create, translate, amount of things you write and publish, amount of ideas you have, the amount of new knowledge that you make. You cannot increase this, keeping this out of proportion, the resting and the restoring. That's not how it works. How it works is to increase creation, you increase restoration. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about what that means for your summer, okay? And how you are going to do things in the summer, right? So if you think that you are going to create for 8 hours a day, every day in the summer, or even 4 hours, or even 4 days a week in the summer, and like, okay, I'll give myself Fridays off in the summer, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to be at my desk writing for 8 hours a day. That is going to backfire and you are not going to sustain it. And the result of that thinking and trying to do that will be the bust. It'll be the crash because you haven't restored yourself enough to support the amount of creation that you're trying to do. Okay. So this is like real facts here. Like this is like real talk, tough love. You have to rest. You have to restore if you are going to support increased creation this summer. And again, increased creation in this context means more writing, more publishing, right? So how are you going to do that is the question. Well, let's talk about that. All right. First of all, you need to build into your summer lengthy times for restoration. And here's what I mean by restoration. I don't mean I'm going to take a week off after I finish grades, and during that week, I'm going to paint my bedroom, or I'm going to do all those doctor's appointments and all the things I've been putting off all semester. I'm going to cram them into some kind of time off, which then isn't time off, before I start tackling all the writing I want to do or all the creating I want to do this summer. That is not how to do it. You have to take actual time off. So that means that you have to think about, what are the things that restore you? What are the things that are rest for you? Now, for a lot of you, if you haven't worked on creating a consistent relationship-based writing practice that has positive feedback loops in it, if you haven't written an academic mission statement and aligned your pipeline and aligned your calendar behind the mission statement, if you haven't done any of that work, the work that we teach in Navigate, or your own version of it, then you might get to May and be so exhausted that you need more than a week. And I just want to say, that is okay. In fact, it's absolutely necessary. So here's how this plays out. Here's what could happen. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You get to the end of the semester, you turn in grades. You go like, oh, grades are over. Okay, now I'm going to take a break for a week. And what actually happens is, let's say you do take a break for a week. We still need to get back to what activities you're going to do during that week that are going to be restorative. But let's just say you know how to rest and restore, and you do that for a week. Then you try to sit down and write. And what happens? You say, I have a lack of motivation. What you actually have is a lack of restoration. It's not a lack of motivation. It's a lack of restoration. You haven't properly restored yourself. You haven't rested enough in order for you to be ready to create again. Okay? So remember too, you're shifting types of creation very likely between the semester and the summer, right? If you're watching this series because you're like, yeah, summer writing, then already you're kind of coming to the summer with this idea that, well, during the semester, I ran out of time to write. So I just taught my classes and I just ran my meetings and I just hung on with my fingernails. So that was the kind of creation you did during the semester. Now during the summer, you're going to do a different kind of creation, which is the writing. Okay? Maybe data analysis plus writing, that kind of thing, with the objective to submit things before August or September when you start back up with your different kind of creation again. Again, that's a boom and bust cycle if you look at it from the perspective of writing. So if you're doing that, then you might get to the end of the semester and a week isn't enough. And I just want you to notice that if you do take the rest, and then you return to writing and you're like, I just have no motivation for this, you actually need to rest more. It is not like any kind of personal fault of yours or personality fault. You have a quote unquote lack of motivation because you have not rested enough to be able to turn around and create again. Okay? So we're going to talk about what to do during your rest period and then how to build rest into your whole rhythm of the summer. And then we're going to talk about how to make your writing and publishing better this summer so that next summer you don't binge and bust, so that you don't get to the summer and collapse. Okay, that's the last thing we'll talk about. So let's talk about how to rest. This is something that I struggle with, I will admit. When I have a cool idea, or if I'm in a problem-solving mode, it is very hard for me to turn that off. And I have to be really, really deliberate. And the literature on rest talks about this as deliberate rest. Okay, so what you need to do is figure out how you're going to deliberately rest. For me, deliberate rest means that it's almost like I can't be left to my own devices. I can't be sitting with an empty notebook, because what will try to come out of my brain is all the problem solving stuff. And what I need to do is stop trying to problem solve and rest, right? So that I can feel restored. For me, instead, it's reading fiction. It's reading page-turning fiction. It's even to some extent binging like Netflix series. Again, very fiction, very like immersive worlds and fantasy and that kind of stuff. That really helps me. Moving my body, right? Like walking, working out, that kind of thing. And for me, being with my family and being with my children very deliberately. So not just in the same room with the children, but actually like, like playing a board game or doing something. Having time off from my phone is also like very restorative for me. Like if I can just put the phone down, have the phone in another room while I am reading or while I'm playing with the kids or cooking or something like that, that can be restorative. Just a note, cooking is not super restorative for me. But so what I want you to do is I want you to think about what are restorative activities for you. How are you going to get your brain off of your academic work and your problem solving and your writing? How are you going to take a mental break from that so that you can restore yourself enough to go into it and finish the writing that you want to finish this summer? For some people, and definitely like obviously sleeping, napping, and that kind of thing are forms of rest. I just want to also say that they're not the only ones. Some people actually restore themselves through taking long runs or like there's lots of different ways. You need to decide, figure out for you what are restorative, restful activities and deliberately do them. Okay, here's some things that you might think that they're restorative, but I'm going to gently guide you to not do this as a way to restore. And those are household activities like cleaning things, sorting things, laundry, anything that's a chore. It's called a chore for a reason. It doesn't really count as rest. You need something more. So even if you love doing laundry, you still need some other forms of intentional rest, deliberate rest, in order to restore yourself. Okay, so just think about all of that. And then think about in the summer, how are you going to integrate those restorative activities every week, maybe every day? Because again, remember this diagram, right? Like if you want to create more, actually you have to restore more. So you need to do the amount of restoration, the amount of rest and restoration necessary to sustain and build your capacity for more creation. And let me say something else. Quit the idea that the only reason to do things is so that you can be more productive. I'm not saying this so that you can go like rest your ass off so that you can be more productive over here. No, what I'm talking about is building capacity. What I'm talking about is sustainability, right? You are restoring over here so that you can sustain the creative work over here. And also, it's okay to not create anything if that is your choice for the summer. Okay. I'm just speaking to those of you who have this idea that you're going to get all your writing done this summer and you're going to go back with a totally clear pipeline for September. Okay. So a few things, right? You have to figure out what is deliberate rest for you. You have to plan, like put in your calendar, deliberate rest, not just in a big chunk, which I suggest for everyone that between the semester and the summer, whatever that looks like for you, you do a big chunk of deliberate rest, maybe another one down the line in the middle of the summer somewhere, but also that every day you have deliberate rest in your calendar. Every week you have deliberate rest in your calendar. This is true actually all year, but I think I can convince you better to do it in the summer, like as a way to start and test this. Now, to wrap up, let's talk about how you can create more sustainability in your writing and publishing so that you can break the binge and bust cycle so that you don't feel completely like you are burning down or breaking down at the end of the semester, burning out, which basically this cycle of like binge and bust is like you work so hard for such long hours during the semester and then you burn out or crash at the end of the semester. And then it's really hard to like get yourself back up from that. in order to do things during the summer. Because what you really need to do is probably take the whole summer off and rest. But you pushed your writing, this really, really important career activity and part of your career that your promotion and your job stability depends on, you've pushed it to the summer. So it would be better next year to not push all your writing to the summer or not push all your writing to the breaks, the semester breaks, right? Instead, what we want is to integrate. We actually want the most important activities of our career to be part of our everyday work life because your days add up to your career. So if we don't try to put writing centrally into our work activities, our Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever, like your workday activities, if you don't put writing there, then what are you doing? Because writing is what you need for publishing, and publishing is what you need to get grants, to keep your job, to get a better job, to get promoted, right? So the actual way to think about this, instead of thinking about how can I make the summer the best, although I just gave you some tips here, right? Is how can I make my whole year better so that I don't have to rely on summer for this bingy-busty kind of thing. And the way to do that is by developing yourself professionally around a sustainable practice for writing and publishing. So, of course, I'm going to invite you to apply for our Navigate Your Writing Roadmap program, which does just that. And right now, our applications are open. You can find the link to apply in the description. And I'll be giving some more details, but if you click on that link, you'll be able to see kind of like the program overview and everything that will do during the program. But here's what the reason to do this summer, right? The reason to do Navigate this summer is so that you can enter the next academic year knowing what to do to create a sustainable writing practice. And Navigate is a 12-week program. It is a group coaching program. So it has training plus group coaching every week. There is a short video module. And then every week for an hour on Fridays, we meet and either have a group coaching call or we write together. This is perfect for the summer, right? Because you can really focus. If you really want to get more writing done this summer, the Navigate program gives you this structure to think about your writing all summer. And what we do is we talk about the 3 levels of planning that are necessary for a sustainable writing and publication practice. The top level is your publication pipeline. So we talk about what it is, how to manage it, how to create it for you, because of course your publication pipeline depends on you, how you work, your field, all of those things. So that's personal to you. So you create your publication pipeline, you diagnose where things are getting stuck in your pipeline and come up, and then you learn strategies for unsticking those things. That's the first level. The second level is project level planning. And project level planning means understanding how to break projects into tasks, how to estimate time to task, and really how to manage writing projects is what we teach in Navigate. But what we teach in terms of project management, you can use for any kind of project. And then finally, the bottom, the sustaining layer of this is weekly time management and writing practice. So what are you doing week in and week out to maintain a sustainable writing practice where when you sit down to write, instead of feeling sloggy, you feel excited and words do come out onto the page, right? And also that you have time and space in your week for writing and thinking, which is really, really important. During the 12 weeks of the program, when we're learning all of those things, you're also being coached on it because some of the things are a little bit wait, I have to put up boundaries and I have to do this and that. Yes, you do. And so you'll need some coaching through that, which is part of the program. And then the other thing that we do that is very exciting for those of you who have at least one writing project that you want to get out the door this summer is that every week we are working on what we call our low-hanging fruit project. And the low-hanging fruit project, we help you select it. It is what we call like an almost done article. So an article that's 50 to 80% written, that has words on the page, that has figures. It's 50 to 80% done, but it needs that push to get out the door. And basically for 12 weeks, we're walking you through applying what we're teaching in each week to your low-hanging fruit project as like a use case, right? As like, here, you're going to try it out with that project so that by the end of the program, not only have you created a portfolio of achievements around your writing practice, including mapping your publication pipeline, understanding time to task, creating your ideal week, and we call it your soaring sessions, designing your soaring sessions, which is your writing practice, and also submitting that low-hanging fruit article so that by the end of the program, you will have submitted that article. And that's what you'll achieve this summer. And you'll do it in a small group. You'll do it with a cohort of other academics who are all trying to master these aspects of their career, who are all trying to put writing more at the center so that they can publish at a level that reflects their expertise. So if you are interested in joining us in our Navigate Summer session, please find the link to apply in the description. You can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate and click on the pink button. And right now we are accepting applications into our application process. It is a multi-step process because we very carefully curate our community. And so we would love to invite you to apply. So if this idea of being able to have a sustainable writing practice so that you can avoid binge and bust and taking the time this summer to really invest in yourself, in your writing, if that all sounds appealing to you, I can't wait to see your application come through and see you inside of Navigate. Okay, rest up, everyone. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.